welcome to Top 5 Nintendo, where we give you top 5 lists for all things Nintendo. I'm your host today. My name is Sam, and here is my guest, Jake. Jake, how's it going today?
What's up? I'm just chilling. Went to a concert last night, so if I'm a little raspy, my apologies.
That's okay. I like your raspy voice.
Thanks, Sam.
So for today, we are going to be doing the top 5 lists for art styles. Now, specifically, this is game by game. So rather than the maybe Super Nintendo.
Well,
spill it, Jake.
When I was making this list, well, I see where you were going. It's not by generation.
Correct.
But I did it for some of these. I have multiple games grouped together that share similar art styles. So that's my
fair.
caveat, I guess.
Because you're going to have Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask as one single one,
I wouldn't even call those the same art style.
Okay. Well, I guess we have plenty to discuss this time. That's pretty valid. Basically, the idea is that rather than be like, 16-bit, that beats the 8-bit style, we're going to be picking more specifically than that. But maybe... So yeah, it's somewhere in between that and like, you can't say like, the Pokemon art style. I love the Pokemon designs.
Right.
Got to be a little more specific than
Which
that.
Pokemon?
Which Pokemon, which generation of them, something like that.
Okay, and that gives you the excuse to do 5 generations of Pokemon, I suppose.
Very possible. And then in terms of criteria, I'm thinking that I have a pretty biased list, and it's going to be... I'm going to really give out a lot of biased information about my tastes.
Okay.
I have one specific style, not to give too much away.
Yeah, me too, I think. I tried to keep it non-biased, but I favor some characteristics.
Sure. And the funny thing about video games is that it's such a progression in that there's awkward phases, and then there's really great, like... fluid art style, and then we kind of progress into the next stage, and then with that is more like of an awkward period. We were talking in the controllers episode about kind of how like even the controllers did that, not an art style, but like the Wii remote was experimental, and they were like, all right, we mastered it with the GameCube. Right. What else can we do? And I think the art styles is going to be like that too. So it's going to be less predictable than like us naming 5 Switch games.
I hope so.
Or at least I hope.
Yeah, I think I have some doozies on this one.
Some doozies.
At least one that I don't think would have been guessed otherwise.
Well, I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay.
Unless you had anything else. You're hosting, I guess.
Yeah, this is my call, Jake. Oh, wait a second.
Waiting.
Okay. I was looking at my list and it said 6, and I was freaking out a little bit, but
well, good thing this is top 6 Nintendo.
Yeah, that was a close one. I skipped 2, so I think we're in the clear. All right, well, I'll start with my number 6. And I picked
this is actually number 5.
Number 5. I picked Breath of the Wild. Because
a little low there.
It's a little low. And I'll hopefully have some explanation to back that up.
Well, you better.
So what I liked about Breath of the Wild is that it got the open world style where you have like horizons and really high scale views that look awesome, but it keeps the like cartoon elements of Nintendo. I feel like Nintendo has, for the most part, stayed away from that huge scale open world format, even when other developers were getting really big into that. I'm thinking like how I grew up with Skyrim, and I love Skyrim, and I thought it was like the best looking game that I had played at that point, just because of like the mountains and the view, and there's a little bit more realism in that game. And then playing Breath of the Wild, you still get that, but you get a little bit of personality thrown into that, and that's that Legend of Zelda art style, where things don't need to be hyper realistic. The charm of it is the immersion into a different world, not trying to meet your world, even if it's like a fantasy based, medieval inspired. Like this is Hyrule, and they're not afraid to make you feel like you're in Hyrule. That's how I see it. So even though the realism's avoided, I mean, you can still relate to seeing like a giant open field and thinking that that view looks awesome. The grass is like super green
Right.
and sharp, and that's
And
cool.
detailed.
And detailed, exactly. And the mountains and like the lava, like it's not silly looking, I don't think. I mean, it's relatable, but also immersive in its own style. And for that reason, I picked it. Now, could it be higher? Maybe. I think in terms of like the map, like Nintendo maps, if we were talking
Okay.
like the Nintendo worlds, it would maybe be higher. But I'm speaking
Okay.
specifically on how the uniqueness of the art style, like specifically like how are the characters drawn, right?
Right.
How are the mountains drawn? And how is it different from other games? And this is top 5. So that's pretty high. I mean, there's a lot of games out there.
There is a lot of games.
But there's other games that I have that I think create art in a way that I prefer. Is all I'll say.
Okay, fair enough. I'm happy it's on your list at least.
Glad I made you happy.
Wish it would have been higher. Could have been happier today, Sam. But here we are. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I of course have it on my list, so I have a lot to say later on. But I will say it has its place, like you said, kind of bringing a crossover between realism and the Nintendo cartoony art style, the little fantasy thing that Zelda has going on for all these years. Yeah, I don't want to say too much, but yeah, I'll give a little fun fact here, I guess.
Please do.
When they were designing this art style for Breath of the Wild, this is a big step up for the Zelda franchise. Breath of the Wild was. So they kind of viewed this art style that they're creating as like the foundations of what Zelda will be from now on.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of pressure on creating Breath of the Wild's art style specifically, as it's like pretty much reshaping the franchise and what we imagine Link and his friends look like.
Well, that is awesome and very hopeful, because if this is just to set like the base level of what's to come, I mean, I'm satisfied with how it is right now, of course. And if they're going to build it and make it even more maybe out there, unique, wacky, I'm excited to hear about it. And I'm also excited because before we started recording, we were both very, very nervous that we would not have as many fun facts in this episode.
Right.
Maybe because the art style idea might be drier and not as fun fact driven, but I think we're off to a good start.
Yeah. I don't even know if it's that, but well, from my experience, at least researching this episode, that there's not many interviews with these people who made these designs.
Yeah.
The more of the interviews are with like the producers and directors of the games who want to rather talk about the mechanics of the game and, you know, the game's place in its franchise rather than its art style. But I mean, that just makes it all the cooler that we have this episode, I guess. Somebody needs to talk about it.
Go us.
Yeah, the
Saving
the
Nintendo.
champions of video game art styles.
Absolutely. This is going to keep throwing me off how I have 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Number 4 for me.
Whoa.
Oh, shoot.
Whoa.
I got so excited to say my next one.
Could I say mine first?
You might as well.
May I?
That would be fair.
Okay, think so. My number 5 is another Zelda game, Link's Awakening, for the Switch specifically. I won't even speak on the DX and original version of the game, but I love Link's Awakening for the Switch. I guess the HD version, whatever you want to call it. I think it is such a cute, cartoony look. Probably one of the cutest games I've played. Why are you laughing?
Someone's never played Nintendogs before. No, that's valid. It is very cute. It's round, and they have like big eyes for their face.
Yeah, exactly.
Valid description.
And from the Zelda franchise, you're not really expecting cute. So this was very cool. And it's not even like the original game. Like they had cute bits to it, but they didn't like look cute. But
Mhm.
I mean, that was, they couldn't really. It was like, I guess it was, uh, I don't know, 16-bit. I don't know these, whatever. But yeah, it looked very toy-like. The characters look toy-like. The whole, um, the depth of field was very low, so it kind of focused on the center, which like generally you would be in the center of the map. But it let you see farther out. So I guess uh, the map in this game isn't too big as far as it goes, but that kind of small depth of field made it feel bigger. Like you could see the edges without being able to like access them maybe or see them very clearly. So it gave like a very strong sense of like adventure and exploration, which I'm sure is what they were going for, and they nailed it. Yeah, it has like that classic tilt shift look where it's not exactly top down, but again, kind of that tilt shift lets you see your surroundings a little bit more, which makes it easier to, I guess, see where you are in relation to other things, which is pretty cool. Cartoony, the cartoony style holds on to the simplicity of the original Game Boy version. I don't remember the exact quote on this, but I remember reading that this remaster was like essentially like a pixel for pixel remaster where like everything lined up on this new version exactly as it looked or as it was placed in the original version.
Nice.
Which is very cool. But it brought that like cartoony style to it. So yeah, unique and cute. Stays true while bringing a new style to the franchise, which is pretty cool. I don't know. There's not a whole lot to say there. I just really like the cuteness, which is what I was saying in the beginning. That's what I'm a sucker for. So we'll be talking a lot about how cute these games are today.
Please don't judge us. That was excellent insight because I have never had that, I guess, explain the depth of field aspect to your perspective when playing that game. I know that a lot of people like that art style and how they modernized it, but still let it be like top down and like very simple imagery, and they just modernized it. And I think that's probably like the best way you can possibly do that for a game like Link's Awakening. And it's also, they had to put a spin on it because they've done like the cute, like cartoony style for a bunch of their games. Right?
Yeah.
Wind Waker and all.
Okay, yeah, right.
Any Toon Link game. And this one was more, like how you said, less a cartoon. It's still cartoony, but more toy-like. And that's kind of relatable in a different way. Because it's,
Yeah.
We were talking about that when we were talking about, like, Smash Bros. Melee, where Master Hand and you are the toy. Like, when you play as the toy, that inherently, like, makes sense.
Yeah. And actually, that's a good point. You've played a little bit of the game. For those of you who haven't played the game, it is a like canonical Zelda game, but it also uses characters from other franchises. So you have the Chain Chomp and what do you call them, Goombas and whatever else. There's like, I don't know, there's a lot of Easter eggs, but essentially, like I'm saying, this art style makes it feel like a little bit of the Smash Bros thing where you're like combining these franchises, and although this game is like canon, it having them like look like toys and feel like that kind of makes you feel like you're having a fun time like joining all these games together, and sort of like the whole Smash Bros like playing with dolls and whatever, even though that's not really the case. I think the style just suits the game very well.
I would agree. Yep, for the little I have played, I did appreciate that part of it. They still, they keep it saturated and they keep it simple but still interesting. A decent 5th pick.
Thank you.
So if I did my math right, I believe that I am next with my number 4.
That is, wait, let me double check. Correct.
Sounds about right to me. Okay, my number 4 pick is Earthbound.
No way.
Yep, and I'm glad that Jake is now finally playing Earthbound because now I can relate and we could have a back and forth about it instead of me being
Yes.
like, oh, you have to play it because this and that.
I believe I am 3/4 or so through, so please don't spoil anything. It's a very exciting game, and I'm sure there's a lot to spoil.
There is. Well, and I won't do that then. Okay. Thankfully, it's pretty simple reasoning why I like this so much. My favorite, just like era of the art styles is the Super Nintendo era, and I
Okay.
feel like they kind of perfected like that pixely look around 1994, right? And Earthbound is out at this time, and what it does is it's not trying to be like immediately an escapist game, right? You're used to like at this time, Legend of Zelda is out and popular, and so is the Metroid series. And I'm thinking of games like even like Star Fox, to a lesser degree Mario. Like all those games are like take you very far out of familiarity, and that makes it part of the immersion. Is it's like the escapism of video games. You could be in a different world. You could be a different person. Like you're a fox, you're an elf, or whatever. And then Earthbound is you are a dude,
Child.
you're a child, and if you're playing the game, you could very well be a child,
Right.
and you at first you just don't have like powers, like you just know to be this guy who lives in a house in the suburbs, and when you go outside, there's grass, there's a road, right? It seems pretty normal, and they capture it like really well in a really familiar way. And it's not trying to be immediately escapist. And then as things go on, it makes the weird imagery feel even more real. Like, because there's such a distinguished difference between, you're walking around town and the library and everything is just done in a way that you understand in real life. And then when you see like blue zombies walking around, it's like, oh, like that feels so believable. Like in the 16-bit style where you're kind of limited to what you can depict and you can't make things look real. Well, by creating a world that feels and looks really real and then having something strange appear,
right
now I get it. Like now I believe it. And it's done in like a funny way, and it's done in an interesting way. And as the game goes on more and more, you start drifting away from this recognizable format of like one net, right? And 3'd and 4-side. And and then you start entering.
Okay, I just got to 4-side.
Okay.
Or maybe the one right after that. No,
Okay.
I think I'm in 4-side, so let's leave it at that.
I'll leave it at that. And as it keeps going on, it feels more fantastical, and how they do it is just on point. It's just perfect, and you really feel like you're in a place that you understand, and then you feel like you're in a completely different place. I keep saying this over and over again, but because I really believe it. And that is really the art style of it that I like. Like when you go in the drugstore, it feels like fun, and it feels like you're like honestly you're playing with toys. Like you're as a kid and you have like your own like I don't know like kitchen. It's like that kind of moment, but as like an adult.
Yeah.
Kind of like what makes Grand Theft Auto even fun is the familiarity of everything and feeling like you have so much control. When you get those psychic powers, I mean that is one of my favorite things about that game is just how they create that world, and it's done through this saturated, familiar 16-bit art style.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to say his name wrong, but the director of The Killing of Sacred Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yorgos Lanthimos.
There you go.
Got it.
It's kind of, it's kind of what you were saying, where he like creates these worlds, I guess, that are like, so they seem real, but then something feels a little off. So it's kind of like that. So like I think the art style feels very real in that case, but the contents of the game, like you said, become increasingly fantastical.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of the art style kind of keeps bringing you back in. So, and I actually noticed in this game, which I mean, I'm literally like playing it right now, so top of my head, but they do kind of do that thing where they'll like bring you into a dungeon and it gets like really weird and stuff, and then they'll just throw you into the next town, and then everything's kind of normal again. But even still, what was the blue town called?
No, I forget.
I mean, it's in a town that's entirely blue. So it's like everything feels right and real, but then everything's blue and whatever. Like it was weird, but I think the art style of that game like really fits it, and I think it's even more. That point should be even more appreciated because at the time of that the game came out, like this was kind of regressive in terms of what a game would look like at the time.
Sure.
Like it could have looked a lot better. It could have looked I was like Final Fantasy was I don't know where they were at
was the same year.
And it looked much better. Like from a objective standpoint.
Way more detailed.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, it should be appreciated that they like specifically chose this art style. And it fits very well. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. No
That's
argument
all you really
there.
have?
I mean, yeah, that's about all I got. I really liked the game, and what hooked me was I felt like it was almost, I mean, they're both basically JRPGs, but it felt like, oh, this is kind of what I wanted out of like Pokemon as an adult.
I was reading debates on that. I think it is definitely a JRPG. I mean, it's a Japanese role-playing game by all means, but a lot of people are saying because of its Western style, it shouldn't be considered that. But I mean, I don't think the style defines the genre. I was reading a lot of articles about, a lot of like Reddit, like whatever, a lot of debates on this. I'm standing on the side of it being a JRPG. What do you think?
I think it absolutely has to be a JRPG. What makes it such an interesting game is that it's very subversive and ironic about the JRPG style. I mean, in Japan specifically, the JRPG genre, did I say the right? JRPG genre was huge and like very well understood. And like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest were popular games. I forget what I was reading about it, but like people would just like mass skip work when like Dragon Quest would come out.
Yeah, you did mention this at some point.
I think I did.
I don't remember exactly what you said.
I'm trying to remember exactly what I said.
Perhaps when some game came out, people left work to buy the game, so they made a law, I think in Japan, that the games had to come out on like weekends.
Yeah, something like that. It was either like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, but either way, Japan really understood the conventions of the JRPG games, and they love them. And that's like assembling party members into like a great party size, and like getting like leveling up your magic powers, and then turn-based combat, right, in fantasy worlds. Japan understood how those games are made. They loved how those games were made. And then even in America, we got Final Fantasy 1, and we liked that game too. But we probably understood those conventions less. And so when Earthbound came out and was like, what if we kind of did like the opposite of what people were expecting in like a way that's going to be funny and then interesting. And I think Japan saw how they were subverting expectations. And we were like, wait a second. Are we like being made fun of right now? Like this just looks like us. How am I supposed to be an escapist when I'm just walking around in what feels like, the suburbs that I live in?
Yep. Yeah. And that's definitely a cool aspect of it. I don't know.
Think, Jake. Think.
Well, no, it's okay. I don't want to I don't like going on. We're a podcast. We like to talk, but I don't want to talk about things I don't know a ton about because then I just look dumb. So I'll hold it. But
okay. Well, now I'm dying to know, and I'm just gonna be upset.
Hey, we could discuss later. I don't want to say things on the record that have to go back and like edit it out or because I sound dumb or whatever. But
the audience will never know what Jake was thinking. Let it be known. Well, then
it's so.
Okay, it's chill. We can hop into. Do you have any more thoughts? We can go on to your number 4.
Let's move on.
Let's move on
for now. Wink.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, this is the one I think that wouldn't really be on anyone's list, and I actually never even played it.
This is insane. What's happening right now?
Every time I see it, I think it looks very cool. And while making this, I watched like a bunch of like gameplay for this game since I haven't played it myself, and I wanted to be able to speak on.
Can I please take a guess of what it is?
Please take a guess.
Woolly World.
Almost. Oh, I was so close to having that instead of this on my list.
Okay.
It's a Mario game. If you want to take one more guess.
The Mario Maker game.
No, I don't. I mean, that feels kind of generic to me. Like just a normal Mario game.
I was trying to think
terms
of a
art
game.
style. Yeah, fair enough. I do want to play that one though. I've heard so many good things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. Okay. I just had a thought on Earthbound, but wink. Maybe we'll come back to Earthbound later. Who knows? Right. Origami King, Paper Mario Origami King.
Okay.
I think this game is so clever in its design, and I've never played any Paper Mario game, let me just say. But like when this game came out, I remember really wanting to pick it up. I don't know why I never did. I probably will eventually. It just sometimes, we're college student. Well, I'm a college student. It's hard sometimes to dish out $60 or $50 for a game, but hopefully I'll get to it eventually. Yeah, I don't know. There's something just immediately appealing to it. Maybe it's the originality of it, of like having origami and in a video game, and the fact that we're at this point where Mario, at least the mainline Mario games are mostly 3D at this point. But this is kind of bringing a sense of like it is a 3D game, but it's like based on the idea of everything being flat, which is like, I don't know. There's just something cool to it.
I'm pretty unfamiliar with the game mechanics of Origami King.
Okay.
I know how the other Paper Mario games work, but is this one as a puzzle game or is it an RPG style?
It is RPG style, kind of. I'm not. I watched some videos, so I'll try to explain a little bit. And actually, good point, because I'm sure a lot of people probably haven't played this game. Although I'm sure a lot of people have as well. But I think it's mostly like a linear like open world type thing.
Okay.
So you can move around in a 3D space, but it's pretty linear as far as it goes. The combat essentially, it is a bit of an RPG thing where it brings you to. I think it's like a puzzle based RPG. I don't really know how to describe it, and especially because I think every boss is a little bit different. But from the one boss I did watch, at least I could speak on. It was kind of like the boss in the middle of like 5 rings or so, and then the rings are like split into columns, and you could turn each ring individually. So that there's like different, kind of like Mario Party, where there's different spaces made up, and you have to like align them in the perfect way that lets Mario move in for the attack. So especially, I think for the one I saw, there's like arrows on the rings, so the arrows would point in the direction Mario would end up moving. So you have to arrange these arrows to have Mario move in the correct direction. I don't know if you would call that a puzzle-based RPG, I guess. I don't really know what you would call it. Are you like looking it up right now?
I'm looking up because I'm hearing you explain it and I'm like, this sounds crazy. I don't even know of like another game.
No, literally, yeah. I've never seen a game like this.
Perhaps action puzzle would be a good descriptor.
Yeah, I guess there's not really RPG. It is kind of RPG-ish though. It is like turn-based combat in a sense. I don't know. I'm bad with genres as far as it goes anyway to begin with, so
this game looks great.
Yeah, watch a video if you haven't played this game. This might be like the best promotion for this game that Nintendo has ever received.
Yeah, I mean, when was the last Paper Mario game? I'm trying to think. I think there was some like.
Was there one after this? I thought this was the most recent one.
Or
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, the one before Origami King. It was like for the Wii, I think, and I don't think it was
the Wii did have one.
RPG. Yeah, because the first two are like classics. Like they go for
Definitely.
a whole lot of money on the
Yeah.
used market.
Yeah, the thing that's made this one stand out is the origami aspect, because I thought
That's
I wasn't
valid.
about the paper, like whatever, but I think the origami was such a cool design concept, and I haven't even spoken a lot as far as like we've been going for like 10 minutes now, but what I wanted to say about this game is the landscape has like a similar sort of glossy design that Link's Awakening had, but um obviously you're using like paper and origami characters, so that there's a deep contrast there that looks kind of cool, I guess. It makes them look a little bit out of place. And I think that all leads to like the sort of Mario comical style that Nintendo does. Um it's obviously very unique, but it also feels comfortable. Like I said, the landscape has like glossy kind of like toyish effect to it. So it feels like a fun, joyous game to just play, you know?
Sure. There's also I'm looking at pictures right now as we talk, and in terms of like that glossy look,
Yeah.
it has really smart lighting going on.
Okay.
You know, I'm thinking of like the older games. A lot of the games that even made my placements
Sure.
don't really have like cinematic lighting necessarily.
Yeah, and I think that's just the progress that Nintendo has made over
Sure.
the years.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps if they remade an older Paper Mario, I'm sure they would do the same thing with the lighting. But yeah, that's probably something that stood out to me as well that I might not have noticed directly, but contributes to the kind of feeling I was describing of just feeling comfortable and I don't know, like unique and playful, I guess.
Yeah. This is a great looking game. I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
You picked a number 4. That was very nice.
I'm happy it's on my list. Yeah, I don't think it would have been on many people's list, but it's really just a game that always stood out to me, and it's always been in the back of my head wanting to play, and I never got to. My last note was just that the origami had a lot of room for silly humor, like the classic Mario humor. So I really like that as well from what I've seen of the game. I don't know. Hopefully I'll play it eventually, but if I end up buying it, I'm sure I'll let you borrow it if you want.
Yeah, that's I'm thinking about how when I was a young kid, I want to say I was like 4 or 5. I wasn't reading yet, I'm pretty sure. And I went to Blockbuster and rented it was Paper Mario for the 64.
Cool. I didn't even know the franchise goes that far back.
The first one is for the 64 and it's considered a classic. It's turn-based RPG.
Okay.
Yep. And I bought it and I was like, oh, this is going to be like, I was used to, the 2D platformers. Like I loved all of those 2D platformer games, and I had them all for Game Boy Advance. I got this one for just to rent for the 64, and I was driven crazy by it because you go up to the bad guys and then you hop into turn-based combat.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess people probably, maybe like an older audience liked, I'm going to use the phrase again, how the expectations were subverted by that. It's not the first time Mario went turn-based, but the art style is completely different, and the combat's different. And as a young kid, I was like too confused on how to operate. I was like, I'm going to jump on their heads, right? But now it's funny because my taste has totally changed, and I would love to play any of those Paper Mario games.
Cool.
Even the Game Boy or the GameCube one. Okay, great pick.
Thanks, Sam.
Well, I got my number 3 if you'd like to hear it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I feel like. Now I was gonna say I feel like I don't include Pokemon enough in my top 5 lists, but I'm remembering that it's pretty much always my number 1 pick.
Every episode
is like Pikachu or Team Rocket.
Yeah.
Okay, so for number 3 I did Pokemon Crystal.
Okay, can you remind me what generation this is?
Yes, that is Gen 2.
Okay.
And so how it worked is Gold and Silver came out initially for Gen 2, and then and then Crystal came out. After that pair. And what Crystal was it kind of picked the best sprites or redid some of the sprites for the Pokemon. That's what I would give that the leg up over just saying Gold Silver. Like Crystal had
it's a little bit of an upgrade.
It was an upgrade for sure. And And what I'll say, my primary reason for picking Pokemon Crystal above any of the other ones is that how they do the sprites was genius. It was like so simplistic and so good looking. They had for every sprite, they use white, black, and then 2 colors. That sounds crazy,
Cool.
right?
Yeah.
It's
a
like
little bit.
it's like don't some Pokemon have like 5 colors in them?
Right.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of a great example of like very colorful Pokemon. Like Ho-Oh has
I
like
literally was thinking
yeah.
Ho-Oh. That's
Ho-Oh
wild.
has like green, red,
Yeah.
and yellow, I think at least.
A
of
very
it.
colorful one.
Yeah, on top of like the white and black.
Mhm.
And they did it in just 2 colors and then a black and a white.
Yeah.
And it looks like so sleek and like thematic and simple and really charming.
Right.
And this is all on the Game Boy Color. So it's probably more of a limitation, but
Yeah.
I think they leaned into it and made it not feel like a limitation, made it feel more like charming, like, and just really easy to like look at and feel like you can, I don't know, like a card you could collect kind of thing. And that's not to discredit the evolution that the Pokemon sprites have become, and now you can just play them on your TV, and they
Yeah.
look like awesome and realistic.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something where like I feel like I can't even really judge the Pokemon Sword and Shield sprites as like its art style.
Right.
It feels kind of like a prop. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like where we stand at Gen 8 in terms of the sprites, it feels like
yeah.
like set dressing, like
Right.
a part of the environment.
Yeah. I feel like that what you were kind of describing in the beginning of this was like this. What you said, I mean, you nailed it. It was because of the limitations. Obviously, like I don't know anything about this game. I've never played the game, but like it's kind of just that's what Nintendo did at the time. And I think like the nostalgia we feel sometimes for these more limited game, like the limited capabilities of these games, like they didn't look the best, but just the nostalgia there is something that can't really be replicated today, or it's difficult to at least. The limitations of these games just made them like so much more. They were forced to be clever in the design.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there definitely was some, and you could say on the opposite end today, you have capabilities to do anything, so it's all the harder. You could argue that these choices make it harder to design a game.
Too many choices.
Yeah, exactly. But I just really applaud these older games that push the envelope of what was capable at the time.
Right. I mean, it's all about like, so you're given limitations. What can you do with it to trick the viewer, the gamer, the player into not seeing it as like, oh gosh, I wish I could just be playing my Nintendo 64, with 3-dimensional characters. Like, how do you make it a game with great art in its own right? And I think that's exactly how they did it. And the region of Johto is also, it's awesome in a similar way that Earthbound is, where I feel like when I walk through the towns, like, oh, this kind of feels like walking through like the neighborhood of like my friend's house, and like and you walk into like a market and you buy things that you want. And as a kid, like you're not used to that freedom. Like it's still kind of cool to have a world that feels similar to your own, but gives you freedoms that maybe you don't have in real life. Or even things like being at like the shore and then hopping on your Lapras or whatever and then swimming to another town. I mean, even as an adult, like that is a cool sense of freedom that they do in all the Pokemon games. All Pokemon games have that kind of like explore the world however you'd like, fly from there and that, and have it be familiar. I like how they did it in Crystal.
Cool. Yeah. I haven't played the game, but I'm envisioning it looked pretty similar to Leaf Green, perhaps.
Sure. I mean, it was a generation right behind Leaf Green, so I think Leaf Green probably felt, I want to say more rounded, but totally didn't because it's still pixely. But yeah, it's similar to that.
Okay. So yeah, just from my experience, that's what I'm envisioning, and I dig it. I wanted to ask if. Oh, I was also obviously researching Pokemon for this episode because there's so many art styles that the franchise has gone through. If I read some debates, especially with Diamond and Pearl remakes coming out, about people wanting specifically a Heart Gold remake versus, I don't know, just moving past those older games.
Sure.
What do you think? Because like do you feel like it's outdated today, or does it kind of carry a timelessness to it? I guess is where I'm getting at.
Right. So what I think people really like about Johto, Gen 2, Crystal, or Heart Gold, Soul Silver is it's like the double album video game, right? Because you're in Johto, and then when you beat Johto, you go into Kanto. And it has the Gen 1 Pokemon, which everyone loves. I mean, maybe you have a different favorite generation, but if we take a poll right now, Gen 1's going to win, and it had a great selection of Pokemon. And then Gen 2 built on top of it, and they didn't really try to outdo. I'm just going to keep talking. I mean, I love talking about Gen 2
do it.
Pokemon.
Go for it.
And what they did with Gen 2 is they were like, we're not going to try to make better Pokemon than Gen 1. We're not going to like just make them better and better. We're going to make them fun, right? And they introduced like a bunch of like novelty Pokemon, just not to be like who has the strongest Pokemon. It's like what would be fun to collect. And with that you get like Wobbuffet, which is the punching bag Pokemon. So when you punch Wobbuffet, it does the same damage back to you. It's a total gimmick. You get like Togepi, which is just to introduce the egg. Like they give you an egg and then the head comes open and now you have that Pokemon. And the unknowns, which you literally just collect to spell your name in the box. Right. And with that,
is that why they put them in there?
No, there's lore to it, and it was pretty cool because Pokemon they're getting more lore heavy as it goes on, but I feel like early on there wasn't a lot of like, in the game it wasn't like these Pokemon descended from this to defeat these guys. The unknown was like you go into the cave of unknowns, and it's very mysterious. Why are these Pokemon just letters? Why do they only know hidden power?
Right. They have the same thing in Diamond, right? With the cave. I do remember this.
Probably. Yeah, I think there's unknown caves in other games too. I forget how they do it in Gen 4. So with that, basically, with all those combinations of features, they just really nailed the formula with Gen 2. And then for the remakes, I mean, the Pokemon follows you. That's amazing. I personally have not played all the way through Soul Silver and Heart Gold.
The like Pikachu Go, that's the remake or?
No. So they do that. They do it in that game too, where like the Pokemon.
Okay, wait, what's the remake?
So Heart Gold and Soul Silver is the remake of Silver and Gold.
Okay,
got it.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know that? Okay.
So just for my and maybe some of the listeners' clarification, Heart Gold and Soul Silver was on the Game Boy.
It was for the DS.
So the original was the Game Boy.
Yes.
I'm asking.
I got you.
Okay.
So the original, was Game Boy Color. It was Gen 2.
Okay.
It was Gold, Silver, and Crystal. Then they remade it. It was on the DS. Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and people love those games. Like some people consider that those games are the best Pokemon games. Some people would say. I mean, I have friends who would agree. I personally have not played through the games, so I can't really like vouch for if I think they are better made games. But I love Gen 2 Pokemon. Okay. And I think Johto is a great region. Now, to answer your question finally about if we need a second Gen 2 remake.
A modern remaster.
I'm going to say probably not.
Okay.
Right? Because
there you have it.
I mean, how many times do we need to see Kanto again? Here's what I'll say. What would maybe be cool.
What the people want.
That's what people want. What would maybe be cool is if they had to remake Heart Gold, Soul Silver, effectively being the second remake. Make it 3D, make it in the style of Sword and Shield.
Yep.
But instead of going into Kanto, it's like, please, like we all love Kanto. I do not need to go back to Kanto.
Yep.
Right? How many times has Kanto been in a main game?
A lot of times.
a heck of a lot of times, because it's effectively that's been remade twice. I'm pretty sure, if I'm counting right. We had Gen
Don't ask
1.
me.
We had Gen 1. Okay, so we had red, blue, and yellow.
Yep.
And then we had Leaf Green and Fire Red. Okay, so that's the first remake. And then we had the Let's Go games. Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu.
Yep.
Those were the second remakes. So I'm guessing people are thinking, oh, let's do the same treatment for Gen 2.
Yeah.
But then it's a double game, so you go into Kanto. So why would we go into Kanto again when we've just been in Kanto?
So you're not about it.
They couldn't truly remake the game. I think they could, but then they would have to. Here's what I would like to see: you beat Johto instead of then going into Kanto, go into Hoenn or something. Like that'd probably what that do.
Okay, switch it up a little bit.
Switch it up a little bit, and that would be basically like redefining the game. Like because the story's gonna be completely different then.
Play with those expectations.
I mean, if they
that would be the biggest.
I think it'd be a little unlike Game Freak to throw someone off. To throw them off that hard, I mean that's
but that would be such an epic gamer moment.
That would be an epic gamer moment to say the least. If the whole world is playing this game thinking they just beat Johto and they're about to go into Kanto, and they get dropped off in Hoenn, yeah, that would blow my mind. So that is my argument. If they did have to do the second remake, they gotta switch it up hard, like hard left turn.
Yep.
And then I'd be okay with it.
That'd be cool. Okay. We've actually been talking for 45 minutes in. I didn't even realize.
That's amazing.
I thought this was going to be a slow episode, but take us away. I guess you're hosting.
All right. Well, how about let's go on a short little break and then come right back?
All right. See you soon.
Welcome to our new podcast. Welcome to our new podcast.
This isn't working.
Agreed. I think we're going to have to do it turn by turn.
Well, now that you mention it, we are a brand new RPG video game podcast.
Our very existence hinges on turn-based gaming.
So join us on the Turn by Turn podcast, where we'll be talking about
Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Golden Sun, Shining Force, Mother, and so many more.
It's your turn to come and join us.
Hi there, I'm David.
And I'm Kate.
And we're the hosts of another Zelda podcast.
There are so many good podcasts out there, and some of them in particular concern the Legend of Zelda.
That's right, Kate, and we are another one of them. That is actually the name of our show, Another Zelda Podcast.
And in our show in particular, we talk about some of our favorite dungeons, characters, boss battles. We have top 10 lists.
Yeah, we do deep dives on game design and production aspects of the different Zelda games.
And we talk about our own experiences. We do some review episodes, talk about our challenges, our struggles, and our victories.
That's right. Really just almost anything that has to do with Zelda, we like to talk about it. A new episode comes out every other Friday, and you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and YouTube.
And you can also check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
That's right. All right, we will see you there.
Okay, bye!
And we're back. All right, so I just gave my number 3. We chatted a little bit about Pokemon Crystal remake ideas.
We kept going for another hour after we paused for them.
just screaming at each other over which second remake needs to be done.
Essentially.
But now on to your number 3.
My number 3. You already said it, Earthbound, but I grouped it in with Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, which I thought kind of looked similar.
That is an extremely bold thing you just did.
But I disagree. Okay, I'm gonna speak mostly on Earthbound.
Okay.
But I also compared it to A Link to the Past. I wrote the abbreviation, and it took me a second to figure out which.
So
game that
you
was.
grouped Earthbound, Link to the Past, and Diamond and Pearl.
I agree. Diamond and Pearl is a stretch. Mostly Earthbound. I'm talking about.
Okay.
I think A Link to the Past also looks very similar.
Sure.
I don't think it. I know they share many assets.
Sure.
So they are pretty similar. Mm-hmm. But I'll be talking about Earthbound primarily just to make it easier to focus on a single game. I mean, you already said most of it. Kind of a minimalist style, which I said like was a regression from what was possible at the time, but you wouldn't play Final Fantasy VI today. You know, it would look cheap. Maybe people would play today, but it's not going to hold up the way it did, and it's not going to hold up nearly as well as Earthbound did. Because
Okay.
I feel like this is. Do you disagree?
I have played both of those games as of last year.
Okay. Well, then you can speak on it.
Okay.
I mean, am I right in saying this? I feel like Earthbound is a more timeless style.
I will say that I probably would pick. No, not probably. I would pick Earthbound over it.
Okay.
Over Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VI was the last top-down, 2D pixely Final Fantasy game before they went to Final Fantasy VII, which was the polygons. So they were at their peak of that style. Now, if you're saying, oh, does it hold up compared to Final Fantasy VII Remake, then it's really depends on who you're asking, right? I think generally people are gonna prefer playing as characters that look like humans rather than pixely characters. That is a
So
philosophical
are you disagreeing
debate.
with me here?
I think both those games look amazing.
Okay.
I think Final Fantasy 1 looks kind of dated.
Sure.
That's as much as you'll get out of me, I think.
Okay. To be frank, I have not played any Final Fantasy games
All right.
ever.
Sure.
JRPGs generally aren't really my thing, but I'm really enjoying Earthbound. And I'll say, and I held it earlier. I'll say that I think, and you were speaking a little on this, I think I like Earthbound to such an extent more than Pokemon, despite their similarities, and perhaps Final Fantasy, although I haven't played it, because of its weird quirkiness, where Pokemon is every battle feels repetitive to an extent. There's, whatever, there's different strategies for different types and whatever. We don't have to get into that, but not only the characters you're fighting against in Earthbound, but their movesets are so unique and quirky and funny that it's always keeping you on your toes, and you always want to see what's going to come next. What other crazy thing are they going to throw at me? Where Pokemon doesn't really feel like there's anything unexpected in it. At
Sure.
least at this point for me, having played so many save files of Pokemon. But yeah, nothing to really do with the style, I guess. But although I mean, the hippies and whatever in the game, it's a very funny style, the sprites that they have.
Well, I think a good way of articulating that thought is Earthbound is very self-aware of what it is,
Okay.
almost in a literal way where they reference what do they say? They say you can thank Ape Developer for creating me and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And then Pokemon, hate to break it to everyone, very not self-aware.
Yeah.
It's I'd say first priority is it's to make kids happy and make the dialogue very understandable and
Sure.
translate well. So you run into Camper Jim or something, the boy who's camping, and he goes, "You knocked over my water," right?
Yeah.
It's like that. It's not very
Yeah, exactly.
unexpected. And then Earthbound is yum, I'm eating so much garlic, I'm powerful now.
Literally. And they'll be I don't even know, the foe, whatever their name may be, creeped forward or sneezed or something instead of attacking.
Right.
Just something silly that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But it brings you into the reality of it because people sneeze in real life. I don't know if they actually sneeze in the game, but that's just something like that.
Right,
I don't
right.
remember the exact lines that they use. But okay, yeah, you were saying well, you didn't say localization specifically, but I think that's what you're getting at. I remember reading Earthbound's localization was the most expensive localization of any game of the time. So it kind of allowed the American adaptation of it to carry that same sense of humor that maybe Pokemon keeps it simple for the sake of translation. Earthbound did not. They just heavily invested into translating the style, I guess, of this game into English as best as they could.
That's interesting. And I'm assuming it's because like irony is a very specific kind of humor.
Yeah.
And then cross languages, it might be difficult to read
Right.
it. So you kind of have to cater it towards the culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Pokemon foregoes that. Things are not ironic in the Pokemon world.
Yeah.
Right.
Usually not.
Yeah. And then in Earthbound, that's everything is ironic.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. I mean, it makes total sense. I think that is the only way they could have done that kind of, dialogue and all that.
Yeah. And I mean, besides that, I don't really have a whole lot to add to it. I think we've talked for quite a while on Earthbound by now. We both agree it's a very, I don't know, not unique. It's a little unique. What's the term? Okay. I don't know if this is correct, but the viewpoint I read might be like isometric, where it's like on an angle, top down type thing, like not an angle on like a horizontal field, like it's diagonal instead of like Pokemon. It's not on a you know what I mean? Like the roads and the buildings you're seeing from like a diagonal viewpoint in Earthbound.
Interesting. Yeah.
So it's a little unique in that way.
That is interesting. I guess I never thought of it as like an isometric viewpoint because when I think isometric, I picture like you are looking at them at a diagonal.
Yeah, I don't know if isometric is the correct term.
But that's a good point, though, is that things they have like a diagonal viewpoint. And whereas Pokemon,
you're looking like head on.
Right. And you go up and down.
Yeah.
And that's how things are made. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And I also, last thing I'll say.
Spill it.
I think the buses are so cool. When you go on buses between towns, it's very goofy because they'll be going like south on the diagonal and then they'll turn east, and it's just like there's only two like sprays for the bus, so it's like it'll be the southern facing bus and then it'll just automatically switch to like a eastward moving bus,
like it's teleporting or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of goofy, and it's it was made so many years ago, but I love the buses. I love being able to go through the towns. Like there's just a sort of adventure that I feel like other games, like even I think is there a boat in Leaf Green or was it Diamond?
Sure, yeah, there's a boat.
It'll kind of just bring you to the island automatically. You don't watch the boat. Maybe there's a little video or whatever of like the boats treading along the water, but you don't like watch it move from the one area to the next.
Right, sure.
Which Earthbound like does on the bus, which I think is just very, it really brings you into like the realism of the game, I guess.
It's immersive.
Yeah.
To feel like you're actually being transported.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of might be a art stylistic choice, maybe, perhaps. Maybe a little of a stretch there. I don't have much else to say.
I think you're onto
so that's all I have.
Very good. Well, you make me feel bad for having it only at number 4 for me. But I agree with those points entirely. Yeah. So is that on to my number 2 pick now?
Yes, it would be.
So if our viewers haven't figured it out before, I think they're going to really figure out what my favorite Nintendo games are just by these lists. Because as I made this, I was like, oh, I have to include that game. I have to include this game, even though we talked about it so much.
Right.
So now, to no surprise, I have Super Metroid at my number 2.
Okay.
And I've always defended this ever since playing the game. I said this game is the most amazing. Well, it can't be the most amazing because it's only my number 2 pick. But it is one of the second most amazing looking game I've played by Nintendo.
Sure.
And so to be fair, I've only played Super Metroid through the Switch's virtual console, and that has like that high definition, like it's very clear, the imagery, like it's bright colors. I guess it's high definition if it's virtual console. Not sure the fancy terminology.
Yeah, I wouldn't know exactly.
Yeah, but I think that probably gave it an advantage to how it looks. But nonetheless, what's amazing about it is that for Nintendo, they pretty much steer clear from like freaky imagery, right?
Yeah.
I think they never,
for the most part,
they never want you to be like too scared. Now there are games that is kind of the focus, and I'm thinking like, even though I haven't played through it, Majora's Mask is meant to have that kind of imagery. Obviously the Metroid games, and then maybe like Luigi's Mansion, but
yeah,
Luigi's Mansion is like Boo Ghosts, like cute, right? And then what I think kept me away from the Metroid series as a kid was that freaky imagery, thinking like, oh, this might be like too much for me to handle. Like, it's dark. I mean, I was when I was a kid, like Metroid Prime was the game that was out. That was like the big game, and I played the demo for it. And I was like, it's kind of dark, and like I don't know if I want aliens like coming in to kill me.
Yeah,
right. So I avoided it. But in Super Metroid, I mean, it's like awesome, like saturated purple aliens that like walk in this like stiff way, or like bugs like swooping down, like green, you know, like creepy looking things that come swooping in, and then each terrain, like, you know, each part of the planet. I'm totally forgetting what planet. It's like Zebus.
Yeah, I don't know how you say any of them.
Yeah.
Zebus sounds right.
Sounds right. I mean, someone's gonna correct me. That's fine.
Zebes.
I don't know. Just say it wrong on purpose. Exactly. Each terrain is built uniquely, and it's cool because, of course, with the Super Nintendo era, there's so much limitation, you know, as to what we understand now. But it doesn't feel like that at all for Super Metroid.
Okay.
Because you're in one part and it feels like very lava and dark, and it's like glowing. But also dark, and like, you know, it has that like cool lighting effect. And then you're in another area and it's like flowery and it's like bright and it looks happy, like kind of like almost an underground meadow. And then you'll be in like another area, and then there's like crystals and stuff, and you just explore and explore, and you feel like you've genuinely seen like everything that could possibly be on some foreign planet. And they do all of that in 1994.
Yeah, it's a very impressive game. I was going back and forth on this one. I think it was almost my number 5. I guess Link's Awakening for the Switch nearly beat it out, but I don't know. Like, it's a very impressive game. I loved playing it, but I don't know if the art style per se stood out to me in that way. I will say though, and I think I've said this on the podcast before when we had our Metroid episode, the Metroid Prime episode, playing Metroid and then playing Metroid Prime right after, like one right after the other, really, really makes Metroid Prime look good.
That's valid.
It makes it look like a very good game. So I do agree with you. It's high up there. It was almost on my list, but compared to my other games on my list, I don't feel like it reaches that threshold. I am surprised it's so high for you. I know you like the game a lot, but I respect it, I guess. Sure.
I knew that was about as much as I was going to get out of you, because we've actually had this argument before.
Yeah.
Going back and forth on this. I remember, I'm just going to call you out. We were having a discussion where we were trying to debate if Metroid Prime was the better looking game over Super Metroid.
Okay.
And Metroid Prime has like the different kind of immersion where you can, like, you know, look all around and explore, and it feels like, all right, this is how I would try to like explore a room. And Super Metroid, you know, Metroidvania style, it's you know, I'm going to throw that in as part of my argument that Metroidvania open world art style helps with the immersion, because, you know, it feels like a puzzle, but also like that is the planet. Like, it's how you begin to understand the planet. Like, sometimes you have to, like, you go through an area and then you backtrack and you become familiar, and sometimes you get stuck in one area, but it
sorry.
But it ultimately feels like unified in some way, which is hard to pull off when you have such diversity in the terrain. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think the upcoming Metroid Dread game, I think looks beautiful, and I honestly think if I did have a Metroid game on my list, even though it didn't even come out yet, that might be on there. I think I'm planning to buy this game. It comes out in a month as of recording this. And I think I'm going to fall in love with the game because it really looks beautiful. But yeah, I don't know. Metroid Prime, I don't really have much else to add, but I respect it being on your list, I guess.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll take what I can get.
Okay.
What do you got for number 2?
Okay, if this isn't your number 1, I'm going to be upset because I know you love this art style because you've talked about it so much.
I already know what you picked. Okay. Well, tell the
Pikmin
listeners.
3.
Oh, that's
Deluxe. It's
No.
not, is that not what you thought?
No. What's the Mario game? Oh, it was Origami King?
I don't know. What are you referring to?
When it was... I'm talking about Origami King. I thought you were picking a Mario game for this one in my head. I think I misremembered your explanation.
No, Origami King was my number 4.
Okay. I did not see Pikmin 3 coming. Honestly, I
Oh.
didn't even...
Well,
I won't
okay.
spoil your number 2 pick. I'm sorry I laughed. Please explain to the viewers.
Well,
How it arrived.
now it seems like it's not your number 1, and I'm gonna be pretty upset if you say a number 1 that isn't Pikmin 3 because you
It's not. It's not.
you've literally gone on and on about just staring at these fruit in the game.
The fruit looks so good in that
How
game.
is it not even on your list?
No,
Whatever.
that's a good argument. I'm starting to understand maybe how you arrived at Pikmin. Continue. Go ahead.
This game is like literally beautiful. Like it's by all means like made for a younger audience, let's say that. But I was so drawn into this game, I almost want to play the first and second game, although I know they're kind of different experiences just based on playing this third game. I'll say that I'm talking about the Switch version because
Sure.
it came out on, I think, the Wii
The Wii U.
originally. It was the Wii U?
Yeah.
Okay. And that one doesn't look quite as good. This is Pikmin 3 Deluxe I'm talking about.
Sure.
The scenes look like, I don't want to say highly realistic because you could tell it's not real. I mean, these are like miniature Honey, I Shrunk the Kids characters inside like what could be Earth, perhaps. It seems like a dystopian future.
Mm-hmm.
There's like technology thrown about for those who haven't played this game. But it looks realistic when you are immersed in the game, when you're playing and then suddenly you notice, you just stop and you're like, whoa, that's pretty. Like the, the scenario in front of you. Like how did they make this? In the same sense, it has that, like what I was talking about, I guess a little bit with Link's Awakening and Paper Mario, where the characters themselves look a little almost like Play-Doh or claymation type stuff. So it's like you get this deep contrast of toy-looking characters, clay-looking characters, in this like highly realistic, like quote unquote, surrounding, which I don't know. I guess the realism of your setting brings you into the game to a higher extent than if the whole world was like this claymation style. You know what I mean? No, any sort of response?
I sort of know what you mean.
I want some validation here.
I can sort of validate this. I just did not see it coming for you. And I'm thinking about the things that I liked about the art style for it. And in my head, what makes the art style great is like the creatures of it. Like I think like it's a really iconic design how they did like the big eye monsters.
Yeah.
That aren't like conventionally scary, but maybe how they depict them makes you feel like they are a monster. And then of course the like design of the Pikmin themselves is pretty iconic. Like how do you do a plant alien, right? That's not like freaky or like unrelatable or something. And then like how you said the fruit, the renderings of the fruit is 10 out of 10. Every single piece of fruit.
Yeah.
Down to the funny names they give it. Perfected. Right. Now, What?
So real quick, for those who haven't played the game, you collect fruit throughout the game.
Yes.
So, these fruit, I would say, look pretty freaking realistic, right? Like,
Yes,
they're very cool.
They're like hyper realistic.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine how much time they put into these renderings. And then once you collect the fruit, you're allowed. Once you finish the level, you could spin the fruit around and look at all sides of it.
Yep.
And that's just their way of being like, we nailed this fruit. Check it out.
Pretty much, yeah. That is exactly what it feels like. There's no other reason for them to allow you to, I guess, rotate the fruit by itself after each level. It's just like, look how much butt we kicked making this game.
Right. I think I said it in the Pikmin episode, but my girlfriend would be like, "All right, just spin through the fruit if you're gonna do that, so we can go." Yeah, just get over it. But where the disconnect is, where I did not really see it as a candidate for my placement, is that I don't see the world as being particularly unique. I hate to give any kind of pessimism to the game.
Okay.
And I don't even see that as more like, I don't see it as a negative aspect to it. I don't think that's what they were going for. I think that they make it like, I don't want to say sandbox, but kind of like you're in like this like playpen and you are timed and you have to get from here to there.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out how to do it before your people die.
Yeah.
That's what I think the draw is. And they kind of like, oh, here's a wall, right? Break down the wall. Or here's grass, like here's a river.
Okay.
I think they did what they needed to do and didn't really try to do that aspect of it, like the map, the world. I don't think they tried to build that in a particularly unique way.
Okay. Yeah, I'll rebuttal that. I think it's unique. Like I said, the whole like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids thing, where like you're not playing any other game where you're like where like a patch of grass or a little divot in the dirt seems like this whole huge setting, you know? I think that's very unique. Like this whole miniature character in a real life-sized world, I guess. I don't know how else to... Well, I haven't played Minish Cap, but I know there's some shrinking in that one.
Okay.
I don't know how similar that might be. Hopefully I'll play that game soon. But that's really the only thing I can think of. I think it's pretty unique.
Okay. I mean, I like the astronaut guys. Olimar and all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to be a downer.
Okay.
But
well, I mean, you seem to like the characters, but I'm more focused on, I think these settings are just insanely, like they must have put so much time into making these. It's beautiful. I think any direction you look in this game, the you were saying earlier, the lighting I think is beautiful, especially because it's this nature lighting. You're outside for the game. It has been a while, so I want to like say the reflections were also look pretty impressive, but I don't know.
Like in the water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shadows. I don't know. It felt very realistic with having these obviously very unrealistic characters.
Well, I will accept that is your opinion.
Okay. I feel like we have a lot of that today. I mean, it's fair. It's fair. This is pretty opinion based, I guess, this episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be like, oh, why don't you like that, visual depiction as much as me?
Yeah.
I think we've had agreements. Well, you didn't get into Super Metroid as much. All right, so these are just controversial number 2 picks.
I guess so. Yeah, seems like it. But I did not think this would be controversial for you. I thought you loved this game. Like
I do. I just never considered like its art style as much of a draw. Whereas maybe Super Metroid, I was playing it and I was like, oh, I want to explore the world just to see like what's next. Like, what is it going to show me next?
Okay. I feel the exact opposite.
Okay. All right. You feel exact opposite. That will be fun for the end of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm really curious what, like,
you would never.
I mean, I want to say like Sword and Shield, but I hope it's not.
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, I thought I had a great time playing that game, playing Sword and Shield, and I think it looks great too. I wouldn't pick Gen 8 art style as anywhere near my number one because, as I kind of said, like, look, I put Pokemon Crystal, I put a Game Boy one ahead of that because that was its own shade of uniqueness. I don't want to dwell.
I think I feel like for their capabilities, I was just like at the time this is pretty long if we want to speed up the rest of this episode, but I'll just say real quick, I feel like with Sword and Shield, although it's not your number one pick, I just want to say real quick, like they had I really hope Arceus nails what this one didn't because for their capabilities, like it should have looked so much better. Like Breath of the Wild came 5 years earlier or 4 years earlier or whatever, and it obviously looks better. Like if you I've seen like side by side of like the grass and the trees and whatever, and like it's just like silly. Like it feels like such a sloppy style. I don't know.
It could have been a very high scale game.
Yeah.
You know, Sword and Shield, it could have been really big in scope. And they chose not to do that, probably in favor of like that traditionally small scale, you know, explore the town type of Pokemon game. And I think they didn't have to do that. It's a, you know, popular criticism. They could have had like voice acting and like the open world could have been like really smooth. Instead, you kind of walk and then the blizzard starts and you walk away.
Exactly.
And the desert starts.
But that's just a Pokemon style.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's always kind of how Pokemon was. Like you step away and then the sandstorm goes away. Whatever.
Fair enough. Okay, hit us with it. Number one.
My number one pick.
Oh boy.
Is Yoshi's Island. Yep.
Oh my god.
For the record, Jake's jaw dropped. And I knew it would because I'm not even sure if I've talked about this game.
Yeah.
Before in our episodes.
You've told me this is your favorite Yoshi game.
Sure.
But okay, whatever. I'll let you talk. Go.
Okay. I've always defended this as probably just like the best art style in a video game.
Okay.
Take Nintendo out of this.
Okay. Any video game, this is number one?
Probably of any video game, this is number one.
Okay. And I'll say I've never played this one, but it's another one on my list.
Sure. So I have a couple fun facts for this. And I think if I give a brief history of the development of this game, it'll help you understand why this deserves its number one pick. So a little bit before Yoshi's Island came out, we had Donkey Kong Country, which did very well, and its graphics were considered to be like the future right there. It had, I believe the term is pre-rendered graphics.
Okay.
Where it was just like pretty detailed, like very detailed, and it was and it was entering into the world of 3D graphics while still being the 2D platformer, and it was crazy for its time. Like it was a huge advancement, and that's the direction that Nintendo wanted to keep going.
Okay.
They were like, do the pre-rendered graphics. Don't have it be flat anymore. Like give some dimension to the game. That's what people are obviously wanting because Donkey Kong Country did so well.
Yeah. Wait, can I ask real quick?
Yes.
I was trying to find pictures of this game because I've never played it. It seems like there's multiple versions.
Okay.
They re-released it a few times. Which one are you referring to?
Yoshi's Island. So the Yoshi's Island that I grew up with was the Game Boy Advanced
Checks out
version. It was originally for the Super Nintendo in 1995, and then I believe the Game Boy Advance version was like 2002. So that's when I played. I was a kid and I got it like when it came out, basically. I recognize that some other people would play it on the TV. I've only played it, on the mobile, but I think it just the style speaks for itself, whether you're playing it, on a TV or not.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I see where you're coming from, and especially growing up with the game. Maybe if I played the game, I would feel more like it's a cute, like it looks almost hand drawn.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why. So they wanted to make a game for Yoshi. Now there's been Yoshi games before, but not like a 2D platformer proper game, like a non-puzzle Yoshi game, right? And Super Mario World did so well, so they were like, let's do Super Mario World 2. It's gonna be it's gonna be a prequel, so it's gonna be like canonically part of the Super Mario World. Mario is a baby, and Yoshi is like effectively the character you're using.
Yep.
Now, to distinguish it as like this is a Yoshi game, they were like, we have to figure out what is Yoshi's aesthetic. What that we know Mario's aesthetic. What makes it a Yoshi game? And like I was saying, they wanted to contrast against the wishes of other people at Nintendo, the style that Donkey Kong Country was going for, and they want it to be super flat. And Baby Mario is a character in the game, and it makes sense because it's very like crayon, hand drawn, like more of a juvenile approach. And you're right, they hand drew it, and then scanned it, and then drew it again pixel by pixel digitally.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah. So they had they literally, I'm no programmer, but they did each pixel to match up the hand drawing, and that's how they got that, hand drawn look, cool. Which was, it sounds very tedious. Now I know that other games did that like pixel by pixel effect, but not, to a scanned image necessarily. And now in terms of the imagery, it's pastel colors. It's very cartoony. It's colorful, and it feels like a crayon. And for a 1995 game to be able to reflect other kinds of media, even if the media is as simple as crayon drawings, that's difficult. And to get the thumbs up, from the people who are approving your game, from the big guys at Nintendo, the thumbs up a crayon game, that's unfathomable. You see like Donkey Kong, who's very like 3-dimensional in Donkey Kong Country. You played a bit of it, haven't you?
I have played it.
Right. And
Not a huge fan.
And then to go back and have it be as flat as that, it's very bold, and I'm all for it. I mean, I don't think this imagery we've really seen ever since the game came out. I haven't played a lot of the other Yoshi games, but Woolly's Woolly World and those other games that have like that unique approach. I mean, they're all borrowing from that idea of bold imagery, like how we see in Yoshi's Island.
Okay. I just saw a few pictures, so cool. I don't know if I can say a whole lot, but I can see if I play this game, I think it could be up there for me as well. It's very original. You're not seeing a lot of crayon-y looking games. No. So it is super cool, and it does fit my vision of Yoshi. Like if I'm thinking of Yoshi, this is like this style is. I don't want to say expected because I've. I wouldn't have guessed that if I hadn't just looked it up.
It makes sense,
but it makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
especially when it's Yoshi and Baby Mario.
Yeah,
it's like, of course it looks like that, but you would have never guessed, and you would, they approved it. That's mind blowing. In '95, you have a crayon game, so that's pretty much all I got to say. It's a great game. I haven't played it in like a super long time. I don't even know how long. It's okay, but it's always stuck with me, and I think that's saying a lot as it is. Well, I'm very excited to hear what your number one pick is.
I'm sure you know it.
I'm sure I know it. I cannot guess it though.
Zelda Breath of the Wild would be the. What do you mean? Wow.
Number one. Okay.
Is it sarcasm?
No, I mean I don't know. I guess because you didn't give me that much disapproval when I only had it at number 5.
Well, it's a Zelda game.
It is. And that is for sure.
I know you enjoy Zelda, but you're not huge on it.
Sure.
So I was happy it was on there, and I'm especially happy it's on there, and Sword isn't. Sword and Shield isn't.
You were thinking I was gonna have Sword and Shield at number 1?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
When I said like I hope it's not, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. So thank you for not doing that.
And you're welcome.
I do feel a little cheeky for having Breath of the Wild at number 1, but I also don't feel all that cheeky because it's not just my opinion. Like this has been said by a lot of people. I feel like this is a beautiful game. Like,
right.
Every review talks about how beautiful this game is. I mean, we've talked about this on this podcast by now, but like you could look you could go to the top of any mountain in this game and look at the horizon, and it's just
Yep.
freaking beautiful. Like, it's stunning. Okay, so let me draw it back a little bit, and I'll try to be quick with this. But Breath of the Wild has this sort of water painting look to it, that it looks realistic to an extent, but then everything looks a little flat. So in the same sense, it's not all that realistic. I did do a little bit of research into this. So the style is cell shading, which is used pretty commonly in these 3D games, especially like JRPGs tend to use this kind of thing. So essentially what cell shading is, and I'm not a video game designer, so I don't know all the technical details, but they'll make like a black outline, like 3D outline of the assets, and then put the flat colors over it on top of this outline, and then put the shadows on top of the flat. So essentially it has like these really dark outlines, but flat colors and minimal shading, I guess. Again, I don't know the terminology or whatever, but it's just a very pretty and unique style that I just like. I feel like it's very beautiful. It's also fairly detailed. I know like the Switch isn't the most powerful system, let alone like the Wii U that it originally came out on. So there are like assets that will, again, I don't know like the terminology, but like will appear as you walk. Like you can see trees sprouting up and whatever. So that does kind of take you out of the immersion sometimes. But at the same time, you could cut some slack because it's so detailed with like grass waving in the winds, and I mean the what's the town? When we had the towns episode, we were talking about the sort of beach town that was like Wind Waker-esque. It's just like it feels so homey and comfortable, and like it's something that could like only be achieved with like this style of like extent of realism, I guess, but while maintaining like that fantasy aspect to it where it's not entirely realistic. And they said about this game that this choice was also used to make like the more complicated mechanics of the game easier to understand. Like by not being hyper realistic, it kind of just made things easier to understand at a glance. Like you would know how whatever like concept works just by looking at it most of the time. So I think that's pretty cool as well. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we said a lot in the beginning, but it's just a pretty game. If it keeps you wanting to look for more, like I guess you were saying with Super Metroid, but on a bigger scale, I guess.
Sure.
There's so many unique areas and like attributes to these different sections of the map that are like achieved through this art style, that just makes you like keep wondering what you'll see next. Like how, I don't know. It's just such a great game.
No, I'll give that to you because that is, I guess, what motivated me to continue exploring the world was how the world felt, that,
Yeah.
and that's such a great part of the game is exploring the world right there. And if I felt like it was maybe too unbelievable or unrewarding, the
Mhm.
visual style, then that kind of takes out the whole, secret sauce of the game. It's
Right.
like what's on the other side of the mountain.
Yeah.
If it felt unfulfilling, then there goes the game. But I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. And like going off of that, I saw videos in my research of gameplay without the cell shading. Now they must have used some sort of ROM. I don't know like how they did this, but like YouTube has some crazy stuff. So it's essentially the game without like it looked like pretty realistic, like Skyrim, but if it was made 10 years later
Mhm.
or whatever. It loses that like Nintendo feel to it
Mhm.
without the cell shading. Like it feels darker, even though it's not really. It feels like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how else to describe it besides like you know what I'm saying when I say the Nintendo style. It feels like
A bit cartoony.
a bit cartoony, yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, it wouldn't have been the same game without the cell shading, which I mean, I don't know where I'm really going here, but if you have time, like look up that video. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it
but
does sound cool.
I'm just saying it's not better. It looks very cool, but I think they really pick the optimal style for this game, for like an open world adventure game. I really love it. I don't know what else to say. I'm really excited for Breath of the Wild 2, and hopefully they even build on this style and make it look even better.
Right. I mean, if you're right and that this is like what was meant to be the baseline of Zelda moving onward, I can't even imagine like what, a sequel would include.
Right.
So with that, also one final thought that I really did want to include about Pokemon Crystal, my number 3 pick, was that in terms of the Pokemon designs, which is a crucial part of the art style for that game, is that how I see the 2 big criticisms that Pokemon was receiving in their Pokemon design after maybe like Gen 3 was that they were kind of entering like a Digimon era where before Pokemon could get away with having like even the legendary Pokemon were kind of cute and rounded and simple, and you could draw them yourself. I'm thinking like Lugia was,
Sure.
2-3 colors or something, and round, and I could draw like a bad version of Lugia right now if I wanted to. And then even Gen 3, like Kyogre, Groudon, it starts getting a little more detailed. Like I'm thinking, if you can imagine Rayquaza, more detailed, but still kind of cute. Like Kyogre is kind of a cute Pokemon. And then once you get to like Gen 4 and onward, those legendaries, people say they kind of look like Digimon. Like they're meant to feel like very sci-fi. And I know it's like a space themed game, Gen 4, Diamond and Pearl, but like from outer space. And for a lot of people, a bit of me included, that takes the charm out of it, that Digimon era. And then on with that, I don't entirely agree, but people also didn't like how they were making like a chandelier Pokemon, a sword Pokemon, like taking an object and putting eyes on it. Right. And my counter argument was always, well, look at Gen 1. We had a Pokeball with eyes on it, right? We had a Pokemon called Seal that looked like a seal, right?
Right, yeah.
So Pokemon has always leaned into that approach.
Yeah.
But Gen 2, I mean, was pretty good about having like smart, fun designs and building fun Pokemon, whether it's a Shuckle that has like huge defense, no HP, and is like a worm in a rock. I just wanted to add that. Maybe it'll influence where we place it, in the top 5.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be a tricky one, and we are like an hour and a half into this, so we gotta make it quick. I'm so sorry if anyone's still listening. No, thank you so much though. For real, this is a long episode. Thanks for listening.
Okay, well, Breath of the Wild is gonna be on our list because
number 1.
Yeah, I think it's probably gonna have to be number 1 because I don't see how we're getting Yoshi's Island in on this.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you see.
I mean, it could be on the list, but it's not number 1.
Yeah, I don't think I could argue for it to be number 1.
I think Earthbound is obviously on this list, right?
So you're probably not gonna want Earthbound ahead of Breath of the Wild. Like, where are we standing on
That's
that?
insane. I can't
It's
believe
insane
you
to you. Okay.
even implied that that's
All
a
right.
possibility.
I'm trying to think where I could. All right, where do you imagine Earthbound list? It was my number 4.
Yeah.
It was your. Did you have it at 3?
It was my number 3, yeah.
Okay.
And I had Pikmin ahead of it,
So,
but you did not have Pikmin.
and like I said, I love the fruit in Pikmin. I like the style that it uses.
Okay.
Is it in my top 5?
Okay. No.
Most days not. Most days it's not.
Yeah. So can you just run me through your list real quick?
Sure, I had Breath of the Wild number 5. I had Earthbound number 4. Pokemon Crystal number 3. Super Metroid number 2. Yoshi's Island number 1.
Okay. would take Pokemon. I would not take Metroid, I don't think.
Okay.
We could do Pokemon if you want, somewhere in this list. But I would like Pikmin on this list. If you can figure something out there.
So I'm gonna. Okay, I'll figure something out. We're gonna keep Pokemon Crystal on this list. I'm thinking maybe number 3. It's my number 3.
Okay. And where would that put Earthbound?
That leaves for Earthbound either a 2 or a 4.
I would. Well, what would the other 2 or 4 be? What is 5?
What is 5 is a great question. Yoshi's Island.
Okay, what if we did Yoshi's Island, Pikmin, Pokemon, Earthbound, Breath of the Wild?
That sounds just dandy to me.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll call it right there then. And to run through that one more time, we have Yoshi's Island, number 5. Pikmin 3, number 4. Pokemon Crystal.
Deluxe, Pikmin 3 Deluxe.
Pikmin 3 Deluxe, number 4. Pokemon Crystal, number 3. Earthbound, number 2. Breath of the Wild, number 1.
Nice.
I am the most agreeable top 5er. I feel like I'm such a nice guy.
You informed me after our last episode that I cut you some major slack.
Do you really?
On that list, or maybe it was the one before it.
Oh yeah.
You did inform me that I was being a nice guy, so no more
Oh yeah.
nice guy today.
After the episode, I was like, Jake, you were like too nice to me. Like, what's in it for you? What are you trying to get out of me?
This week. I'll try to get this week out
I
of
guess
you.
so.
And it worked. Got him.
Yeah, you got me. All right, well
cool. This was a real fun one, a real long one.
Long one. I guess
Unexpected.
We were talking, we were like, we're not gonna have enough fun facts.
Yeah, maybe guess we skipped a week, right? So did we? I don't even know. Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing. I don't have any job or school or anything right now. I'm like in that. My summer term finished. Waiting for fall term. I'm doing an internship, but it's not really a whole lot. So like time is non-existent to me.
There you go.
Okay. We shouldn't be talking. We should be ending this. Round us out, Sam.
Right. So, are we on Instagram?
Yeah.
We're on Instagram.
Yeah. We are on Instagram and I believe Facebook now, and definitely Twitter. Yes.
Great, and that is Top 5 Nintendo.
Yeah. That's it. With the number 5.
With the number 5. And then Jake, what is your personal Instagram handle?
Just my name, Jake Naroden. How about you, Sam?
And mine is Sam__Ansa. That's ANSA.
Double underscore.
Absolutely.
And then our email, if you want to shoot us an email, maybe some episode suggestions or maybe what your list would have been or whatever. Just Top 5 Nintendo Pod with the number 5 at gmail.com. And that's it. Oh, we have a website now, but I don't know the URL offhand, but I think it might just be top5nintendo.com. Maybe, but it should be in our Instagram anyway, so you could look there. And I think that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for listening to our longer length episode.
Our LP of an episode.
Our full length. And we'll catch you guys next time. I'm out.
Bye.